So hi, I'm Stanley Manock, and I'm here to talk to you today about driving real business growth within your paid media accounts. That's across the board, from Facebook through to PPC and sort of everything else in between. So in terms of who I am, I've basically run some of the biggest paid media teams in the Leeds integrated accounts, Leeds integrated agencies. So I've spent quite a lot of time at Brass. I've done sort of up to 6 years at home running their media team. A short while at WMG before coming across into Connective 3. My experience is across almost all sectors, from healthcare to finance to B2B to retail and everything else in between. So in terms of my recommendations for driving growth in your paid media accounts, the first thing that I'm going to recommend, and I cannot recommend this enough, is getting your data house in order. Unless you're looking at the data that you think you're looking at and you have that tracking correctly, then you're going to be optimizing your media to inaccurately to the wrong things and the wrong factors and the wrong results. So in terms of where to start with that, start with an audit. Get your data team or ask your agency data team to audit all your data and tracking. So what conversions are being tracked in the first place? Is it a lead? Is it a sale? Is it conversion? Is it a phone call? And then are they firing as you think they're firing? So if you want to track brochure request submits, then is that tag on that thank you page, or are you potentially tracking people that just hit the brochure request form? So make sure that all your tracking is tracking what it needs to be tracking, but also that it's working correctly and the data is recording as you think it is. What attribution model are you looking at? So are you looking at last click, so all your brand activity looks amazing? Are you looking at first click, so that all your display and things earlier on in the journey look really good? Or are you looking at a position-based or linear, which looks at other different ways of looking at that data? So there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's just to understand how that data is counted and the counting methodology behind that, so that you can understand it and make the right recommendations from there. What is your single point of truth? So with this, it's about looking at, are you classing Google Analytics data as success? Or is it Google Marketing Platform data that you're optimizing to? Because they will show you, by nature of their counting methodologies, different results. And so they might give you slightly different stories. And if you're constantly switching and changing, then you're not going to be optimizing to the right thing. And the last thing here is, do you have offline conversions? So are you driving offline conversions, such as people who are requesting a design visit or a home measure if it's fitted furniture, and things like that? And then how can you integrate that data in so that you're optimizing further down the funnel and not just to that initial kind of brochure request? By doing that, you'll find that you're optimizing much more to the right value. So that brings me nicely on to point 2. So integrate as much data as possible to give you the richest data, and making sure that you are optimizing to the right things. So giving an example of that, looking at our recent one of our recent loan clients, looking at this data, it's a chart that everybody wants to see. You've got the red line being loan applications, and then you've got the green bars being cost per application. And as you can see, the applications are increasing and the cost per application is decreasing. Happy days. However, when you then look at how many of those applications are turning into approvals, you'll see that those approvals, so the navy line, is starting to decrease. So whilst your applications look really positive, actually at the back end of the business value, it's not such a rosy picture. And then of course, when you add on to that, the cost per actual approval, you're finding that it's getting more and more expensive to run this activity. So by integrating those approvals into your Google Ads campaigns and your Facebook campaigns, it means that you can see which audiences and which messages are driving the right customers and the right people and the people that will get approved. So by doing that, you can make sure that you're optimizing your media budget to make sure that these lines at the back of the chart are going in the right direction. Basically, what I mean by that is not all conversions are equal. So it could be, as the example that I've just been through, it's a loan application, an approved loan application, and then the funded loans, or it could be a brochure request, a design visit, or a sale, the ROI, the profit, a returned item, and lifetime value, and really how much that customer is worth to you. The more of that back-end data you can pull through into each of your individual platforms, the better and more accurate your paid media optimization, and the better those results will be. Here at Connective 3, we like to do these incredible integrated paid media dashboards, which just have every piece of data in them that you can imagine, and they're fully flexible so that we can really, really quickly see trends and performance, basically. And what that means is that we can see that data in real time. So we can immediately see if a change has happened to the account or an optimization's been made and it's having a negative impact, as well as letting us see opportunities so that we can increase performance against that as well. It's really important to be able to see your data and see it fast. My third bit of advice on this is focus spend on your potential customers. You will always have people who are searching the right search terms who will never buy from you. So this is about recognizing who your customers are and then weeding out the people that aren't those customers and focusing your media spend exactly on the right people. So how to kind of do this? So I'm going to talk about this in generic terms. However, it's quite, we recommend doing it across every platform. Every platform's methodology is slightly different. So the first thing to do is start with Google Analytics. So this data on the left-hand side is Google Analytics data, where you can see the in-market and affinity audiences. This will tell you what your audiences are buying, what they're in market for right now, and also what their passions are, what do they care about. And then with that in mind, you can then replicate directly those audience metrics into your Google Ads campaign, because obviously Google Ads, Google Analytics has the same data sets. So you can replicate that directly into Google Ads, put that under observation, see how those audiences do, place bid modifiers against them to give more exposure and more budget to people that fall into the right segments and weed out the ones that don't. But then once you have a target audience that works, or you understand your personas, or you have personas already in-house. It could be couples or families or affluent people versus people that are less so affluent. We can build those as combined audiences using the custom in-market and affinity segments to build your perfect audience. And then what we do is we observe it, we see how it does, and then if it does well, we can bring that out into its own campaign or ad group in Google Ads, and assign a different ad to it. So I've got an example that I'm going to walk through. With Facebook, you can't observe it and then see how it does and then target it. It's just a case of building those audiences and then optimizing the performance against them. So think audiences, not audience. So this example is people who are looking for a new house. So with that in mind, you've got lots of different people looking for lots of different house types. So you've got first-time buyers, for example. Second steppers, people that have already gone through the first-time buyers, have maybe got small children, and they have a home to sell, and that's a key sort of factor. And then once their family maybe gets a little bit older, they want to move into the right school districts and things, then they want to look for their forever home where they're going to be for that long period of time. So these audiences will be looking for different properties, and they'll be looking for different things in those properties. So first-time buyers want city centre apartments potentially, which are cheaper but give them that sort of access to the housing market. You've got second steppers who want that kind of new build out of town potentially, and the forever homes with the country house. So you've got somebody looking for a house and are potentially typing in things like new homes in Leeds or houses for sale in Leeds and things like that. But they're very, very different people looking for very, very different things. So we build these audiences so that we can talk to them separately. And that brings me really nicely onto my fourth point, which is match your audiences with relevant messaging for them. Because we all know if ads are irrelevant, we just don't see them, we don't click on them, and at worst, we find them annoying. So in the example I just gave a second ago, for first-time buyers, talk to them about Help to Buy. Talk to them about getting them on that property ladder. With second steppers, they have that home to sell. Let's talk to them about how we can really simply help them buy their new house by potentially part exchanging their old home. And then you've got things like wording like perfect family home, dropping in the fact that these guys are now a family. Then you've got the forever homers who, this is their home for life. They're not going to be in it for a short amount of time. So that means that they're really interested in quality and guarantees and warranties, and talk to them in the message that we know resonates with them, like perfect forever homes for your family, because realistically that's what they're looking for, that's what they're going to engage with. So you've got your ads, you've got your right people, you've got your right messaging. Now we need to talk about things like right timing and starting to focus that budget down on the areas of the account that are performing the best. So some of the things, again, that we like to do here in C3 is using scripts in things like PPC and scripts to help us navigate big query data sets so that we can identify the trends in the data a lot easier. So this particular one is an ad schedule report for PPC, and we can quite easily see on this data the times of the week when we're seeing most searches being performed against our keyword set. So we have the green section in the middle is when we're seeing the most impressions, and the sort of reds around and about, or where we're seeing less impressions. So we can also look at that data against the whole account, specific areas, brand campaigns, but we can also look at it in terms of impressions, so searches, and then performance data such as clicks, cost per click, when's the most expensive time of the week, when's the most profitable time of the week, and we can implement that data back into the account, again using scripts, so that when this data changes, our campaigns are constantly changing to reflect the correct behaviour, making sure that we're always giving the best use of budget, best use of our media budget. Another representation of this is looking at Google Maps. Google Maps now has a really beautiful integration into Data Studio, which means that we can implement live campaign data into our live dashboarding, or live maps into our dashboarding. And essentially what this means is we can see where our clicks are coming from, where our conversions are coming from, and so on and so forth. And this is really useful for people that have showrooms or stores and things. They can see, are people buying online who are more familiar with the brand and are closer to store, or are people buying online because they can't get to a store? And therefore, what should the subsequent strategies and messaging be around that? So it's about focusing budgets and messaging around where we know performs best. In terms of my sixth recommendation on how to grow using paid media, or how to grow within your paid media, is ongoing structured testing. So if you're not testing, you're not pushing your account, you're not growing it, you're not developing it. So these are some of the areas, again, trying to be channel agnostic, that you can focus on in terms of optimization and testing. For Google Ads, we use experiments to make sure that it's a controlled A/B test. And for Facebook, you've got your Facebook tests in there as well, to make sure that the tests are given a real chance in that controlled sort of 50-50 or whatever weighting environment. So things that we can change, things that we test and regularly do test, bid strategies. How much are we willing to pay for each of those audiences? What are they worth at the back end, and what should the bid strategy be for them? Landing pages, I think some media agencies especially kind of think their job stops when somebody gets to the landing page. Whereas in fact, that's such an integral part of the journey that we like to multivariate test where we take people and what's on that page, to make sure that we're giving the most frictionless journey to people, to make sure they convert and go on to then be valuable to the business. Ad copy and messaging, again, something that media agencies quite often overlook is creative testing. We're so good at targeting and the data and the analysis and the rigorous data interrogation and things like that, but then we come to write the ad copy or the Facebook ads, and it's given to someone with a real data mindset, in which case you tend to get an ad that's really, really functional. What we make sure that we do, and what all clients should make sure that you do, and all brands, is really focus on that creative, because you really want your ad to create emotion. Because when we create emotion, it generates a greater ad recall. When you get ad recall, people remember the brand, and therefore they're more likely to engage with it, click on it, remember it, and so on and so forth. So test your ad copy, test against those audience pools to see what messaging and what motivations we can match to help people engage with those ads. Maybe ask people a question or pose a problem, or on the flip side of things, propose a solution and show them what they could achieve if they went with you. Account structure, I can't stress enough how important account structure is. We've done lots of audits since we started back in October, and the amount of accounts where Google especially isn't being controlled properly it's quite significant. So you need to be making sure that you're negating the right keywords across the account and negating audience groups as well. So if somebody's already engaged with the ad, or engaged on site, don't give them a fresh prospecting ad. So it's really important that we are controlling the flow of Google so that the right ads show at the right time to the right person, obviously, but making sure that the budget is going on what you think it's going on. And then the last one, things like keywords and match types, is a pretty obvious one, really. Make sure that you're appearing against the right keywords and the right search terms. If you're not sure if it's the right search term or not, because obviously sometimes things have different meanings, search it yourself. Go onto Google and see what else comes up when you search that search term. Google has obviously made looking at the search term reports a lot trickier in the past 2 weeks or so by reducing the amount of data it's going to give you. So that job has just got a bit harder, but yeah, mind those search terms. They'll give you some really valuable new keywords to go after, and again, give you really valuable keywords to negate and get rid of that you don't want in there. Cool. And then the last one that we have is almost about your agency relationship. So looking at agility and flexibility and transparency and more ways of working. So it's really important that you have channel agnostic optimization, and that if a channel isn't working as hard as some others, that you're able to switch and flex budgets across those, and that you can do it in a timely fashion to take advantage of the opportunity that gives. Make sure that it doesn't get stuck in the politics of a kind of, no, that's my budget scenario, and that the budget can be used best across the channels as necessary. Similarly, in terms of flexible and timely buying, we make sure that we are completely supplier agnostic. Again, it's only the right thing that goes on plan. And this goes really nicely with the transparency of and the campaigns and the commercials as the last point here. We work to a flat fee rather than looking at percentage of spend. And what that means is that we're not swayed to one media spend, one channel or another. It's about having that complete level playing field so that we can up and down weight budgets in real time and change them across the different channels really flexibly and easily to make sure that we're always using that best use of budget. On campaign transparency, we like to, as I said at the beginning, have those really immense data dashboards where the campaign is just there all laid out in front of you. And we always make sure that we give those to all of our clients so that they see what we see. And it's about having that complete campaign transparency so you have the confidence that you know exactly where every penny of your budget is being spent and the performance against that. Because only then will you know where the performance is and then how to grow that performance and grow that budget. So in summary, my 7 factors for delivering growth in paid media agnostically across channels are: get your data house in order, make sure you are looking at what you think you're looking at. Integrate as much data as possible, again, so that you're optimizing to as far down that journey as you can, not just that first touch point. Focus spend on your potential customers and treat audiences as audiences, plural, matching those motivations with that messaging. Then focus budgets on top performing account areas using all those kind of rigorous data optimization that us paid media types sort of live and die by. And then test. Make sure that you've got a testing roadmap built out for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to try and test within there? And it could be any of those different factors, from audiences and motivations through to a new ad type that comes out, for example. And then just make sure that you have an agile, flexible and transparent way of working, which means that you can then take advantage of any of those opportunities in real time. So that's it from me, but hopefully that's useful. So thank you very much.